I tell you guys all the time the quality of your living. What does that actually mean? We all have different levels to how we define success. And we all have a starting point, and a lot of you guys don't remember where your starting point, when it happened, when it took place. But for those that remember, sometimes it happened with a mentor, sometimes it happened with a teacher, somebody that was able to sit you down and start you with the basics in order for you to be where you need to be right now. I'm talking about literacy coaches, people who have over decades of experience of how to, show better growth and development in themselves. I'm talking about Lesia Davidson, author, mom, teacher, public educator, private educator, mastermind,
A literacy business.
literacy,
Coaching my parents and teaching their kids how to read.
and we're live on set, and we will be back. And this is what we're talking about today. He's here. You here? You're here. We're here, live on set with Irv, discussing strategies, execution, teamwork. And today we have a special guest, a friend of mine, phenomenal educator, amazing mom, someone I've done seen, got a front row seat of seeing people seeing that click. When you see that click that happened with the kid, you know that click, that means that it's on. You know what I mean? I have Lesia Davidson in the studio, have you on set. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Well, thank you for
Appreciate it.
popping up. It's spring break.
Always, yes.
We got some,
Yay.
we got some time, right? Even when we're on break, we're still working. That
Yes,
just seems
always,
to be,
yes.
yeah, the life.
That's one of the things people don't realize about teachers.
Mm.
I have people say to me, "Oh, you're lucky to be a teacher. You get 2 months off from school." I said, "No. Those 2 months are my vacation months." I said, and half of those days that I take on vacation, though half of those vacation days are actually days that I'm seeking my next thing to do. So when September comes, I'm ready.
Yeah.
I've been to conventions where I see people flying in from all over, Mississippi, Alabama, Ohio, Minnesota, for conferences, their own money. I just think that's interesting. And people don't realize what teachers do on the back end that helps their kids on the front end. And not everyone, yeah, of course, but there are a lot of teachers that are actually taking their vacation days and flying in and working on getting information to help students.
So even on their time off, you're still finding
Still
ways,
working.
and that you don't get paid for,
Exactly.
and you still have to still pay for.
Exactly.
So I hear a lot of teachers, even some, they say, "Oh my gosh, you're about to finish school. Oh, early childhood education. Oh, why would you even do that? Why would you do that to yourself?" I'm like, "But you're doing it." They'd be like, "I'm trying to find a way out." And even though some would say, luckily for me, I have areas that I could tap into to do otherwise, because some people don't have that, so I'm very, very grateful for that. But what got you into education in the first place?
So I found myself one day sitting in the library of a law firm. I was making pretty good money. I was really young. I was making about $40,000 a year. But I did nothing all day. And my brain just wasn't working. And so I contacted my aunt, who was a teacher, and she told me to come down one day to take a look at what she did. And from that day, just to see how the teachers were planning and strategizing and working together, I decided I wanted to work. I wanted to be a teacher.
What age was that?
I was
I don't want to put you on the
30
spot. I don't,
I was 33
Okay.
at the time. And so I had just started this new job. And I was scared to tell my boss that I wanted to leave, but I took the leap. And I said, I know I just started working here. However, I found an opportunity that will work for me. And she said, "What are you going to do?" I said, "I'm going to be a teacher." People that never spoke to me in the office because they didn't know me, everyone flooded me. "Oh my gosh, that's great. You're going to be
Really?
a teacher." I felt like I made the best decision ever. And I took a $10,000 pay cut for that.
Really?
Yes, I took it. And I didn't care. It didn't matter to me because I was 33. I didn't have any kids at the time. I was good. So my first year, I started as a teaching assistant, but I had, or what is it called? Not a teaching assistant, but when you my teaching position, I started in July.
As a paraprofessional, was you a
Not as a
para?
paraprofessional, but I forget what they call it when there's someone comes to observe a teacher because they want to be a teacher. It's not a teaching
Student
assistant.
teaching.
Student teaching, yes. So I started on a different path because I actually landed a fellowship with the New York City Department of Education as a teaching fellow. It was a second cohort. So my college education from my master's was paid for because somehow I landed this position because computers wasn't a big thing then. But what happened was I went into the system and I was just typing in my information, and then the system shut down. And then a week or so later, someone called and says, "Oh, we have this teaching fellow interview, and would you like to come?" And sure.
Wow.
So I went in and I knew nothing about teaching, and my aunt started coaching me, and she's like, "This is what you're gonna do." And I had to teach a lesson. I was like, "A lesson." So I just started thinking about my days as a student and what my teacher did with me. So I taught the lesson on contractions.
Okay.
And so I taught the lesson, and they were asking me all these questions. And then one of the questions they asked was, I know I'm straying away, but I'll come back.
No.
And one of the questions she asked was, if you were teaching and you had no books, what would you do? And I said, well, I'll find a book and just make lots of copies. And just that one, I think that one question actually landed me the position as a teaching fellow.
That's usually how that goes too. You know, like they ask
Mm-hmm.
those questions, so everyone's looking for the right question. And there's no right question.
Mm-hmm.
It's the right question is the honest answer. That's that's it. That's like that's the right answer is the honest answer. You know what I'm saying? And that's how it is. So is that when, like, I guess in your case, was that like the click for you?
It was the click because I was able to take that experience as a teaching fellow, and that was a 2-year experience, and I worked it. It wasn't easy at the time because I didn't know anything about teaching. And so when I started my teaching fellowship, I worked as a student teacher in July.
Okay.
Realized like I was in for a treat of my life because what I saw during summer school, I was like, oh my God.
What grade?
Well, I was with a 5th grade teacher. And the things that these kids were doing with this teacher,
5th grade.
he didn't see anything wrong with it. I can't, some crazy stuff, but I can't even tell you some of this on camera.
Yeah, you know
I'll tell you later. But it was some really crazy stuff. But what happened to me was there was a student there. She was in the 5th grade.
Mm-hmm.
And she was supposed to read a book. So I went over to her and I was trying to help her to read the book. She couldn't read. She didn't know not one letter. So of course she didn't know the words. And so
in the 5th grade.
In the 5th grade. And I realized that instantly. She didn't even come back to school the next day. Fast forward now in September, she's in the 6th grade. Now, as I'm teaching, I'm meeting all of her family. It was a family of illiterate. They were all illiterate. Every single, and till this day, they're still in that same school. They just live around the block. They're illiterate. And I thought to myself, man, this is going to be a position that's going to be really difficult for me because I can't see how someone's now in the 6th grade and she doesn't know any letters of the alphabet. She knows nothing.
Nothing, blending,
nothing. Didn't. So when I even got her brother, he knew nothing, but he at least tried something.
Younger brother.
He was yes.
How many years younger?
Maybe
if she's in
3 years younger.
So is he in the third
He
grade?
was yeah. So he maybe 3 years younger.
Okay.
Yeah. So it was just interesting to see that there was a lot that needed to be done.
Okay.
And I felt like I was in the right place at the right time, but I was scared because I've never been in a situation where I had to help children along the way with their education. And I was actually learning to be an educator at the same time.
The responsibility is, that's what I find interesting, even when it comes to being a para. Mm-hmm. I love being in school because I already have a one-up. Mm-hmm. Like I noticed a lot of my classmates, when they were talking about a lesson plan, half of my class was like, where do I get that at? Mm-hmm. I was like, don't worry, guys. I'll send you a few on the WhatsApp.
I know,
I got you.
Yeah.
Because they've never seen it. Mm-hmm. And they don't even know where you can get all the book smarts. Exactly. But once you get thrown in the South Bronx, you got to deal with what comes within the South Bronx. and there's not enough training in books
Exactly.
that's gonna prepare you for, even like that click. Like I've seen a lot
Yeah.
of kids, the ones you was able to get your hands on, I seen all of them somehow, some way,
Yeah. That click.
catch it. And
Yeah.
everyone's not able to do that.
Yeah.
Like, where'd you learn that from?
So I always tell everyone that when I learned to read, I was in the 5th grade. And I realized that because in the 3rd grade, we had what we call round robin reading. So there was a sheet that everyone had,
Mhm.
and everyone took a chance to read the words on the page.
Okay.
So, of course, when it came my turn to read, I would just memorize the words. When I was at home, my dad would tell us lots of stories, and my brother would have to read Bible scriptures to us. So those two things kind of helped me to get the foundation of reading. We talk about the 5 pillars, which is phonemic awareness, phonics, and fluency. So I was able to do those 3 things. So I knew the alphabet, I knew letters and sounds, and I knew words, and I knew fluency, but I didn't understand what I was reading. So my mom would give us these Bible scriptures, and then my brother would say, "The Lord is my shepherd," and we were like, "The Lord is my shepherd; I shall not want." So I memorized all those words. So when I went to school, I just memorized the words,
Got it. But this
the particulars of it.
but
But
this is the age of
8 years old because I was in
okay,
the
this
3rd
is
grade.
third grade. So
Yeah,
third. Okay.
and so that happened for 3rd grade, and then 4th grade happened, and then 5th grade, I met this teacher called Miss Sales. And Miss Sales was a godsend because she was teaching us about African American history, about Black history. And so she showed us this picture of this person, and she said, "This is a Black man. He was an explorer." And I'm looking at this picture because it was Matthew Henson, and to me, he looked like a white man. I'm thinking to myself, how is he a Black man? And I couldn't understand it, but she continued to tell us more about Dr. King, and so I started going to the library because I wanted to know more about this person that she was talking about. And my best friend could read, so she would go with me and started going even more. And my mom had bought us childcraft encyclopedias. Now, this is back in the 70s. Childcraft encyclopedias, Encyclopedia Britannica. So we were a World Book encyclopedia. So I would go and I would look in the book and I would read the information. And I would copy it down and I would start. I wouldn't read it, but I would look at the words, and then it was being fed to me. So my brother was helping me to read, my best friend. And eventually I learned how to read because I wanted to learn about this African American history. Because in my home, I'm a Guyanese immigrant. So in my home, we knew about Guyana. My parents didn't really know much about what
Like
was
just the
happening in
history of Guyana.
I knew some of Guyana, and that's all so I ate Guyanese food. My dialect was Guyanese. Everything we did was Caribbean. So I didn't know much about the American culture per se. So I didn't know about African American history. So if my parents sent me to school, it was my job, as far as they're concerned. It's your job to learn whatever you need to learn. So I couldn't come home and
understand
say
the
I didn't
language.
know. So no one knew I couldn't read because I wasn't going to tell anyone. So I had to figure it out. So I just started learning African American history and became fun to me. And then I started learning about Shirley Chisholm and Jesse Jackson. One of the reasons why I love poetry because of the way he used to speak. He used to love, "I am somebody, I am somebody.
You know what?
Down with dope, up with hope. No one can save us from us for us." Love poetry because of him.
You know what? I'm glad you mentioned that because now I can see a little bit more of, when you started getting introduced to American literature of any aspect, how, it started to seem like it made a toll on how you received information. We're going to elaborate on that in a minute. We're going to go to commercial break. We have Lesia Davidson on the set. We're going to get a little bit deep into that, so you don't go nowhere. And in the meantime, any of the merch for sale?
They are. I have 2 children's books, and I have, I guess kids can read this too, but I have an adult book.
Well, we're going to have link in the description. Make sure to click on that. We're live on set. We'll be back. You love creating, you love music, and you deserve to have a studio that works for you, not the other way around. That's where Some Entertainment comes in. Guys, they're unapologetically dedicated to doing it right from the start. Some Law knows every project is unique. They'll set you up with a smart budget plan that's built around your vision. They're with you every step of the way, checking in, guiding, making sure you're always on track, if you know what I mean. With us, no more struggling between the wants and the needs. Get what's essential so you can focus on what matters. Hey, governor trusted, and it's simple. They care about bringing your ideas to life. Photo shoots, headshots, videos, music production. Someone has experience to bring your vision out of your head and into the world. Don't wait any longer, yeah? Call us and take the next step to sharing what you've been dreaming of. And I'll see you in the studio. Yeah. It don't have to always come off, like we're just like waiting there,
Mm-hmm.
like you can just, you know,
Relax,
just let it go with the
breathe.
flow. Trust me, it's easy. And speaking of being easy, we're back. We're live on set. Irv, see Davidson, literacy coach. And yeah, we here, figuring out a couple of things about what's going on in the education world
Mm-hmm.
today. And speaking of today, you mentioned being a struggling reader,
Mm-hmm.
at an
Yes.
early age,
Mm-hmm.
So what experiences shaped you in your journey to the coaching that you provide to the future youth of today?
So let me just say this first. I realized as an adult I was a struggling reader in third grade because of the way that our education system is set up today. Our education system is set up today. We're expecting 5-year-olds to be able to read by the time they come to us. I don't remember that being something that had to happen when I was a child. So in today's perspective, I was a struggling reader, and that's why I say that. But I think back in the 70s, that wasn't a real, I don't think that was a thing. So because I've considered myself a struggling reader at third grade, when I became a literacy coach and I saw that there were kindergartners, I saw there were first graders, forget that. I had fifth graders that didn't know how to read.
Mm-hmm.
I was concerned because I knew what it was like for me in third grade and in fifth grade when I was trying to read. And so, because of what I noticed with my situation, I decided that I was going to use whatever I learned as a child to help my students. Because although I was a teaching fellow, they didn't teach me how to teach, they just gave me theory. And to what you said a little while ago, I was thrown into the trenches.
Mm-hmm.
So the principal, who's a first year a principal, actually gave me the books and says, "Okay, go teach." And I literally remember standing there with the books in my hand. I was like, "I don't know what to do."
Yeah, teach
And it's like,
how
exactly,
to teach.
exactly. So I went into this school, this classroom, and the kids were taller than me, literally bigger than me, because I'm 5'3", and I was
They're eating
really small.
McDonald's or the food that's in the
Oh my
fast food.
gosh!
The
And
kids are the size of refrigerators.
yes,
my little, my
yes,
5'7". What am
yes.
I doing with Noah? What the hell am I doing
There
with
was a
Noah?
boy. I remember him. He was like 6 feet tall, and I'm looking up to him. But they were still kids.
Yes.
And so I didn't know what to do. And I would be in class, and they're making these noises, and they're yelling and screaming, they're doing all this. And I'm thinking, oh my God. So I'm praying, like, what am I doing? What am I doing? And finally, I got a mentor, because as a new teacher, you're supposed to get a mentor for 2 years. I got a mentor that lasted for a month.
Really?
And so, because I
Jeez.
came from the corporate world in 9 to 5, in my head, I had to figure out how to get these kids where they need to be. Because in a 9 to 5, it was no, oh, we're working in teams. I just knew that I had to figure out what to do with these kids because they're gonna run over me. It was like
That's right.
it was
If you allow
19
them
girls
to.
exactly, and they would have because I didn't know what
Yeah.
to do.
Yeah.
So I had 19 girls and 10 boys, and so the principal said to some of the seasoned teachers, "I'm gonna just give you some of her kids because she's a brand new teacher." And I heard them complaining, they didn't do it for me, and why would they do it for her, and this and that. And I said to the principal, "Give me whomever you have
Yeah.
to give me,
Give me the
just whatever you need to do,
Yeah.
because I'm here to teach." So I took my 29 kids, and once again, because I had a 9 to 5, there was no such thing as a break.
Yeah.
So we had a prep, and I learned about this prep period.
Mm-hmm.
And so I looked for the teachers that was doing what I wanted to do. And during that prep time, I went into her class.
Yeah.
And this woman had the same amount of kids. She had kids that were just the same size as my kids. So what I did was I sat there and I watched her. The kids could only move through a spot that was this wide.
Mm.
And she was just doing it. She sat in the back of the classroom. Her work was on the board, and the kids were moving. It was so quiet. You hear a pin drop. So I would go into her room every day. And then there was another teacher that was on the other side of me. he would allow me to send the kids that were misbehaving. So he helped out a bit. And then I just started thinking, what would my mother do if she was in a situation like this, working with
How would
kids
she
that
approach it?
misbehaved?
Yeah.
So we just had conversations. So I would tell them to stand up and have them stand on the side of the wall, and I would speak for an hour. And if they got tired, no, get up. I didn't tell you to sit down. So I'm not being the military. I'm like,
Must say you sound like
an
an army
sergeant.
instructor. Yeah, exactly. Like,
And the kids would actually do it. And in my mind, I'm thinking, oh, shoot, they're listening to me.
Yeah.
I don't know what I'm doing.
But
every time they spoke, I would get up, stand on the side, boys over here, girls over there. How dare you? I'm the adult in the class. And I'm talking, they're looking at me and they're quiet listening. And I was impressed that they were actually doing this. But this one particular day when I tried this, there was a little girl in my class, and could you please stop talking when I'm talking? That's very disrespectful.
Yeah.
She said, shut up. You ain't my effing mother. I was like, what? Clutch my pearls. Like, what? What?
Oh, now, baby.
I was like, hold up a second here.
I could be your auntie, though.
But I didn't even know what to do with that. So I went to the principal and I told the principal what happened. She says, okay, well, tell her her mother has to write a letter before she comes back in your class because she can't be disrespectful. I pulled her to the side and I said, before you come back in my class. So now I'm acting like them because I don't know what to do. So I'm rolling my eyes. Come back in my class, you better have a letter from your mother or you can't step foot in this class. I'm doing all this. And
What the little girl
she's
say?
looking at me. She walked away. That little girl came back to my class the next day with a letter from my mother and her mother's and the letters. And she came in front and she gave me the letter. And then she went in front of the class and she said, I'm sorry for what I've done. I shouldn't be disrespectful or whatever she said. And she came to me and she apologized. When I read the letter, said, Dear Miss Davidson, such and such would never disrespect you again. She used to do this,
right.
this, and this. And if she doesn't call me,
Put some
I
respect
was
on
shocked.
it.
And people
Phone
talk
number
about,
and all that, huh?
they talk about, oh, the people in the ghetto, they don't care. I never met this mother. Up until this day, I've never met her.
Really?
Never.
Wow.
But that little girl never disrespected me another day. I was like, oh, it's this
Yeah,
easy.
they'll learn. You listen.
yeah. I
Some
was
parents
shocked,
will
yeah.
definitely make sure that their kids in check.
And I always had the parents on my side for whatever reason. And parents would say, this lady never calls me. And the fact that she never calls me, you must have did something. So I had parents that would do that. And it started to like work.
So is that some of the things that assisted in building up your confidence?
Yes.
To pour into students, even the disrespectful ones? So
Yes.
how was your relationship with her, that girl, after?
One of the best students.
Really?
Always helpful.
So how was the reading with her?
It was shaky. But what happened was I had found some books. I think I said this previously. I'd found some books. It was from 1950 something. So it was probably books that I had used when I was a kid. And it was teaching.
1950s?
Yes. I found it in a closet somewhere. Because remember, they're not giving me materials. They're just telling me to go and teach. So I just started to look in closets and I found these books that was talking about grammar, conventions.
Got
So
it.
double negatives, contractions, how to write a simple sentence, compound sentence. And I found this book and I remember that I did something like this in school. So I got these books and I had enough to hand out to each one of them. And I was teaching them with those books. And these kids were actually progressing. They were actually doing the work. So I would give them, and I think I was giving them lots of work, but they were just these great kids. They were actually challenging. I was shocked. Like when I think back on my days, like I had some good days.
Yeah.
And so they saw that I cared. Because I came back every day. I showed up every day. And I was always with a conversation. You guys, come on now. This is not my education. It's our education. You have to learn how to read. You got to learn. And I'm just pouring into them, just telling them, you got to do this and this and that. And and they're listening. But they knew. They knew that I really cared. They had to have known because they changed. So people would come into my classroom. I'm sitting, I'm working with a group of kids. And they were asking, where's your teacher? And they're like, right there. Because I'm blending in now. They're bigger than me. So I'm blending in. And so they would ask, where's your teacher? She's right there. And people couldn't believe it because these kids are quiet doing the work.
So it's
but
like,
where's the teacher?
Yeah, because it's
Principal
moving.
was shocked. She couldn't believe it.
So when it comes to those type of things, what did you like? How did you implement that into like the practice to being able to get them
So
like that?
I remembered as a child, the things that made me love education were the things that were fun. And so I just started making everything fun, but they had to learn. So whatever I taught them, so if it was social studies or if it was science, they did a lot of the experiments. Social studies we were doing, because at the time they had, social studies not really taught that much in our schools, but in the lower grades, to be honest with you. But at the time, 5th grade had to take a social studies test. So in 4th grade, you have to teach them the information. So by 5th grade, they're taking this test. So I would read about a lot of and it wasn't really teaching about, they taught about slavery, but it wasn't really a big thing. Christopher Columbus discovered America still was a thing in those books.
Yes.
Which I stopped teaching. So whatever I taught, I figured out how to make it fun. So when we talked about the Native Americans, they would make the longhouses, they would make the wampum that they had to trade and barter. So they would make these, and dioramas was something I love because I'm really into art.
Yes.
So they would bring in the shoe boxes. I mean, these kids were just amazing. They would bring in the shoe boxes, then we bring the cotton balls, we make the sky, the tree, and they would just make these dioramas. And then they had to write about it.
At home too. You can get all those things
exactly. So you didn't have to buy anything. And so they started researching. So we would get and there were old books once again. So encyclopedias were still in there. And so we would get the books and they would copy verbatim from the text, which was okay for now because all this was brand new. And then as I continued to teach them the writing and how to write essays, and then all of that changed because now we talk about plagiarism and they're like, oh my God, I don't want to plagiarize.
Yeah, you start jacking someone else's info.
Exactly. And they didn't know about that. So I made it fun. So now they had to create these dioramas and they had to bring these items in and almost like a show and tell. And so then they would have to present. So now you have to stand in front of the room and you have to speak in front of everyone and read your work and how do you hold the paper. And so I did things that I learned as a child in school, which was what I considered fun. And they loved it. We created a television station at one time. I started giving them responsibility. So I had a person, because I wasn't good with computers, I had someone that was in charge of the computers. So everyone would go to her. And then we had people that knew how to do those bubble writing. So they would go to them. So everyone had a job. So I made it so much fun that they were able to run the class on their own, which was pretty cool.
And I think that's what's missing in today's time as well, having fun. And before we go to our next commercial break, I have to ask you guys, when it comes to your children, how are you making it fun for them to be able to learn? A lot of kids are not having fun learning. It's looking like it's like a job. Like a job. Like, oh, my life is over. I got reading today. I'm like, dude, it's just reading. You'll be fine. Trust me. We're gonna go to commercial break and we'll be back. We have Ms. Davidson in the building, and we'll be back. Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So you love creating, you love music, and you deserve to have a studio that works for you, not the other way around. That's where Sumlaw comes in. These guys, they're unapologetically dedicated to doing it right from the start. Sumlaw knows every project is unique. They'll set you up with a smart budget plan that's built around your vision. They're with you every step of the way, checking in, guiding, making sure you're always on track. With us, there's no more struggling between wants and needs. They get what's essential so you can focus on what matters. Hey, the governor trusted, and it's simple. They care about bringing your ideas to life. So, photo shoots, headshots, videos, music production, Sumlaw has the experience to bring your vision out of your head and into the world. Don't wait any longer. Call us and take the next step to share what you've been dreaming of. And I'll see you guys in the studio. In your head, you counting down in your head now, aren't you? You feel like, yeah, you remember like 9, 4, 6, 7, 5, 4,
What happened to the rest
4.
of the numbers?
You said 4, 3, and you got up and looked back there. I'm like 2, 1. Are you coming back? And that goes with everything. Whatever it is, if it's reading, having fun. If you're creating a podcast, gotta have fun. You gotta find some way, somehow, some way to laugh and figure it out and have fun figuring it out. I'm glad. I love this. Like, this light may cut off because it's usually like a 30-minute clip. But if it cuts off, that's a good example of what I mean as far as being on point, because I've been playing with all these things.
Okay.
But before, if anything happened, we was talking about having fun. So what are some of your key strategies on what you do, if not in a classroom? Because, everything is a set. Every set is, could be a classroom. But, what are your key strategies, what I mean, to making it, easy and fun to be able to receive information and hold on to it?
So what happened to me is I learned to listen to my students. There was a teacher of mine one day who said to me, I was explaining to her how difficult it was in the classroom because one year they had just thrown all the rest of the kids that were left over into my classroom because, new girl on the block, whoever was left over, where are they going to put them? So I had all these kids. And this second year, these kids were rambunctious. So I spoke to her and I said, I have this one particular kid who just doesn't listen, and I'm going on, and I start telling about the other kids. And so she says to me, what you need to do, Ms. Davidson, find the ringleader, get that person on your side. And so I started warming up to this kid. So I would teach, and he would make these jokes, and he would be funny. And I would kind of say, please don't do that. And so this particular kid was able to rally up the kids to get them to listen to what I had to say. And then I had this, I would hear someone, so in the quietness, I heard someone say, this is like the first time, this is boring. Wish we could do X, Y, Z. So I'm trying to think, how can I make this interesting? And so this particular year, I decided that I was going to get the kids more involved. So I had mentioned before about giving them jobs. So one of the teachers had said to me, that is actually a good idea because we do that. Because remember, no one's helping me through this. I'm just winging it. And she said, we do this. So if you give someone a job, someone's the recorder, someone's the secretary, someone's I forget all the jobs. Someone's the writer, whatever the jobs were. So I gave everybody a position. And as I'm doing this, I'm hearing someone say, oh, we need some paper. We need the markers. and because they had we need this and we need that. And they're saying, and then I heard someone say, oh, maybe we could build this. And they were making it fun. Yeah. So although I was into the dioramas and everything, I was actually giving them something that they actually like to do. Yeah. And they started doing it.
Yeah, figuring the thing that they into.
Yeah, and then one person, so when someone came to me and said, can we make a radio station? Mind you, I went to BMCC, and I was a communications major. I just couldn't finish it because I had to work. So
those who don't know what BMCC is.
Oh, yeah. Borough of Manhattan Community College.
Okay. Just got to make sure.
It's a Borough of Manhattan Community College. And so I was a communications major. So when they said, can we make a radio station? I was like, oh, sure. Yeah, we could do that. So what do we need? So I'm asking now, what do we need for a radio station? I'm now encouraging them to figure it out. So they're huddling and they're getting all this information together. And they're just setting this thing up. And then one person wanted to be the reporter, one person would be the cameraman, and one person, and they were actually giving themselves jobs. So we went from diorama to, oh, we're going to build a radio station. Oh, who's going to be anchor person? And they were just creating this whole
creating it
world, which was amazing to me.
I always enjoyed watching, as you can see, like anything that had to do with creating, like, this is the mind of Earth, you know what I'm saying? Like, all the things of how I had to, the power of the tongue and speaking these things into existence and being creative and having someone, that's willing to be patient to create. You know what I mean? Where did that patience come from? Were you like raised by grandparents? How did that come from? Like, where did that come from? Just pushing?
I have no idea.
Just wanting to see others better than yesterday.
I was always a quiet child. Actually, in actuality, I was a bullied child.
Bullied child?
Yeah, bullied. It's in my book, my very first chapter. The very first chapter. So I was bullied.
Oh, which book? I mean,
The Gifts of Pain. The first chapter is a compilation of 31 authors. And so my chapter is the very first chapter. I think it's the first chapter because I'm telling my story from a child's point of view. So in the 5th grade, oh man, a lot of things are coming to me now. In the 5th grade, I was bullied. There was one particular girl, I remember her name, and she would always tell me, move here, do this, do that, don't stand there. And she's always doing all of these crazy things I was just so afraid of her. And one day there was a girl that I would help. I didn't know much, but I knew more than her. So I would help her with her work. So she sees me one day and she's wondering, what is the matter with you? Why are you crying? Why you look scared? Why you this? Why you that? And I said, bothering me, like cowering. She's bothering me. This girl was to me, she was 6 feet tall because I'm only 5'3". And so she walks over to the girl and she says, why don't you pick on somebody your own size? That was what we said back in the days. Why don't you pick on somebody your own size?
Yeah.
Pick on me.
Yeah.
From that day,
Yeah.
I call her my guardian
And sometimes
angel.
they be shorter than you. Because look, 3'1". Say it in my face. Little chihuahua. I had that problem. I had that with the Napoleon complex. They'd be like, dude, you are 5'6", 112 pounds. What are you doing? With tattoos. So you had your friend, she the one who came to you as a friend.
Yeah. But I was always quiet. Even at home, I was always quiet. Because I can't go home and tell my parents I'm being bullied. I didn't think I could. They sent me to school to learn. I got to figure out what I have to do. And they may have done something. But in my mind, they sent me to school to do something, to get some work done, to get my education. Whatever they sent me to school to do, I was going to do it. So I didn't even ask for help. So I was always quiet. So even at home, I was quiet. I did my work. I followed along, as everyone said. But that was just my personality. I was always a quiet person.
I chuckled because I saw the name that pop out. You know, we all know who my
I didn't say the names.
We
of the
all
girls.
know who my
I
significant
know the first
other
and the
is.
last name of both those girls. Look.
But it was like I'm like, oh, this name is always popping up somehow, some way.
She's not my age, so it's no.
No, it's all good. But like, no.
I gotta have a conversation with her.
No, but it's interesting because that just goes to show you, like the full circle moments of just how life is connected.
Yeah.
You know
and
what I'm saying?
it was all 5th grade. Now that I'm thinking about it, that's why it's like, oh, a light bulb moment.
Oh wow!
All
the
of
same,
my
the
5th
same
grade.
full circle.
I
moment.
started with 5th grade, then to 6th grade, went to 5th grade because I was the disciplinarian, as they say.
From defeat to triumph. And I see after it seemed like it has it says pause for a moment. Close your eyes and recall an instance when you faced a challenge or felt vulnerable.
So
Who or what helped you through that moment? Perhaps it was a friend, family member, or even your own inner strength. Reflect on it below. So in your case,
it was my inner strength. My guardian angel Tanya and my inner strength.
it takes a lot to actually like dig deep and
I do a lot of
work through it.
reflection.
Are you still in connection with
No,
Tanya?
I've been trying to find her.
You
But
really?
the bully, I know where I see her on Facebook.
No way.
I know her first and last name. She's on Facebook. She probably won't even remember.
Are you connected with her?
No. She probably won't even remember.
No?
I remember her. I remember her cousin. I remember these people. That's how
Because it made an impact on you.
changed my life.
So so are you gonna search for Tanya?
I have been.
It ain't the Tanya upstairs, no. It ain't her, right?
No,
Okay.
I've been searching, but I don't. And it was. I think she had either was a twin brother, but she had a brother. I've been searching, but I can't seem to find her. But it would be really nice. Yep. But it's just a lot of inner strength.
So you talk about with helping and assisting people. And I want to say people. I just want to say children. You know what I'm saying? Because somehow, some way, even when we're teaching our kids are going home.
I
and
have been helping people.
teaching their parents as
Yes,
well.
yes.
Small things, and they be like, "Oh, I taught my dad." I'm like, "Oh, really? Oh, that's how he." Okay, so when you teach, people and students, how to become independent thinkers. You know what I'm saying? Like, what's a good way of asking it? When you're teaching them to become independent thinkers, are you expecting them to pass that information on, or like how do you?
Yes, because as a teacher, whatever I'm pouring out or pouring into my students, I expect them to use that throughout their lives. So I am teaching them to be independent thinkers. So if I'm teaching the 5 W's and the H, who, what, where, why, when, how, and you have to know how to apply those questions to whatever you're reading. And if I ask you a question or if I tell you to come up with a question or come up with an answer to a question and your answer is, well, why?
Okay.
Such and such is a why. You tell me why. What are you thinking? There's no right or wrong answer. Just tell me, just prove whatever you're saying. So I'm forcing them or encouraging them to be the person that thinks instead of asking me why.
That was the question
Now
I was
I'm
looking
asking
for.
you why?
That's how I was one. That's really what I was trying to ask. You know, how are you approaching the kids to become independent thinkers? You know, with technology, you know, and all these different things. I just finished doing a paper, and they said in the year 2000, we had 20 seconds attention span.
Oh wow.
In 2025,
Wow.
we have an 8-second attention
Wow.
span, and a goldfish have an attention span of 9 seconds. So a goldfish have a longer attention span than the average human beings. You know what I'm saying? So you know, how does that, like, you know, like, I guess that would be it. What's the approach on how are you approaching them to, or making them stay locked in to become independent thinkers?
You know what? It's kind of funny because as a child, we were always told, speak when you're spoken to, answer when you're called. So I never really said much. I was always quiet. And now with my kids, I struggle between how do I allow them to speak, have their voice. And if you do have your voice, be respectful. And sometimes you just have to know this is just what I said, and there's a reason why I'm saying it. And sometimes there is no answer for it. But you still try to figure out why I said what I said, even if there is no answer for it. Sometimes I'm just the authority figure. You just got to do it. That's just it.
Yeah.
You know? So, and that's because I want to keep the reins on them sometimes, because I don't want you to just do whatever you want to do and think you're going to walk over me. And so in my class, I approach my students as if they're my children, because I would expect that my children's teachers would do for them what I'm doing for someone else's child.
Okay.
And although it's not usually what's happening, I still treat other people's children the way I would want people to treat my children. So I go home and I work on ensuring that my children can speak their voice, but I still have to, within myself, say, I have to pay attention to how they're doing this, because it's new. I couldn't do it as a child. So I have to think of how I'm going to allow them to do it, because I have to let go of the reins. Because it took a while. I had to learn some things as an adult that I couldn't learn as I was a child, because of the way the society was when we were
set up.
Yeah. But it's easier for me because I still was allowed to think. Like the way my parents would raise us, we still had to infer a lot. So my mom would say, "Get the thing over there."
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Okay, we were just talking about this. What's the
she's
thing?
cooking right now, so
exactly,
clearly she wants.
Exactly. She must want that thing.
I'm gonna grab the big spoon. I'm gonna
Let me grab both of the spoons because she's stirring the pot right now. So that type, of
exactly
dynamic. So,
I'd rather bring both and then drop one back. Like, no, let me get that one. Okay, good.
But
You
my
took
kids,
one.
they bring nothing. It's like, wait a minute here.
So
or they say, "Well, what's the thing, mommy?" Okay, so think of what we were just talking about.
But,
where am I pointing? Help me out here, type of.
But sometimes, we have to be clear as well, where we have to be like, what is that thing? What is the thing?
But sometimes I forget what the thing is. I'm like, what that.
I was talking about this before. We was talking about, I was saying this in class. I was like, some of our students, they come into the school for the first time and you're saying their name and they're not answering. And they'd be like, "Hey, you don't hear me calling you?" He was like, "No." I'm like, "What's your name?" "Stink."
Yes, I had one of those.
Your name isn't Stink.
I had one of those.
Your name is, okay?
I had a Day. What's your name, Day?
Yeah, no. Your name is Demetrius.
But you have to be explicit that this is your name.
Yes, you know what I mean? So also we have to know what we're asking for as well, in all situations,
So there's a lot of things that I still have to juggle with because of my upbringing, and I'm not knocking it because it is what it is.
At what age did you was born in Guyana?
I was.
What part of Guyana? Because I got a friend from Georgetown.
I was born in Stanleytown. Georgetown, West Bank, Demerara, I believe is Stanleytown.
So it's like, how far is that away from Georgetown?
I don't know.
I mean, is that like from the Bronx?
I don't know. I have no clue.
So what time?
I was raised here.
So you was born in?
I was born in Guyana. I came here when I was a year old. So I was here 99.9%.
You're here. Oh, you here. Okay. So do you consider yourself American Guyanese? Or you consider yourself Guyanese American? Okay, depending on how they do it. In New Orleans, they let you know. They be like, I am French American, okay? French first. I'm like, I, you know, bonjour, machete, you know. Yeah, you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? That's cool. We're gonna go to another
Yeah.
break. We're gonna lock in. I know we do a lot of
Okay.
breaks here. You know what I'm saying? But a lot of breaks, allow
Uh-huh.
more things for more implementing. So yeah, we're here, Miss Davidson, and we'll be back. You love creating, you love music, and you deserve to have a studio that works for you, not the other way around. That's where Some Law Entertainment comes in. These guys, they're unapologetically dedicated to doing it right from the start. Some Law knows every project is unique. They'll set you up with a smart budget plan that's built around your vision. They're with you every step of the way, checking in, guiding, making sure you're always on track. What more could you ask for? With Some Law, there's no more struggling between the wants and the needs. They get what's essential so you can focus on what matters, what you love to do. They're governor trusted, and it's simple. They care about bringing your ideas to life. Photo shoots, headshots, videos, music production. Sumlaw has the experience to bring your vision out of your head and into the world. Don't wait any longer. Call them and take the next step to sharing what you've been dreaming of. And I'll see you in the studio. So then what would be your biggest challenges when it comes to tackling that area?
So let me just first say that when I was getting my fellowship, teaching fellows, one of the things that I heard someone say, because we had a lot of individuals that would come in and talk about education, where we are and where we want to be, and it was the first time I heard the they were saying there was a if a child is unable to read by the time they're in third grade, there was a prison cell built for them. And then they went on to say that it was called the pipeline to prison. I had never heard of that.
So, but the pipeline to prison begin.
They're saying if the child is unable to read by third grade, that
Uh-huh.
there's a prison cell built for each one of those children by the time they're third grade.
Hmm.
Because if you don't read, if you're unable to read by the time you're in third grade, you're not going to continue for the most part. And I don't. A lot of people say it's a myth, but I understand the correlation
Uh-huh.
because when I became a literacy coach, our goal was to teach kids to read by the end of second grade. And although I learned about the pipeline to prison over 15 years ago, here I am 15 years later, and it comes back.
Mm.
So we're trying to get kids to read by the end of second grade because that's where all those early foundational skills are happening. And it makes sense when I think about it because I had students in fifth grade that didn't know. I had one girl. I had actually when I my first year, I had a couple of students that belonged in sixth grade and seventh grade. So they were a year and two behind by the time I got them. And they were very intelligent. They knew a lot. They had a lot of street smarts. They were very respectful because of who I was and how I related to them. And they started to learn. But there was one particular girl that didn't know how to read. She would do all the work, but she didn't know how to read. And she would just copy. And she had siblings that were in the grade higher than her. So she belonged in seventh grade, but her younger sibling was in sixth grade. And then after school, she would be the one to go home, get the snacks, bring it back for the younger sibling that was in sixth grade, and for all the other siblings that were below her. And I said to the mom, because I don't believe in holding kids back. I don't believe in any of that promotion and doubt. I don't believe in any of that. I'll tell you have promotion and doubt, but I'm going to figure out how to get you. I don't believe in holding them
To
back
springboard
because
you.
yeah, because I'm thinking if you leave me back in fifth grade, so what am I going to do? Learn the same information again? If I didn't get the first time, you should be figuring out how to get me to get that information as I move on. But how do we do that if the new teacher doesn't know who you are?
Understand what
So
you're saying.
everyone's holding you back, holding you back. So I don't believe in holding. That's just me. I don't believe in being left back in that.
So
to
you
me,
don't.
just
So you
makes
don't. You don't leave children behind.
it's not even up to me.
It isn't.
People think it's up to the
That's
teacher. It's
and,
not even
and
up
it's
to
not.
me.
That's the reason why I
Because
asked.
I'm pushing you all on. Because first of all, if you're sitting in my class, you're not going to be held back because you're going to do this work.
That's right.
It's
Somehow,
not my
some
work,
way.
but you're going to do this work because I stayed up till midnight, till 1 o'clock trying to figure out how to get you to read. You going to do this work. My kids,
At least understand half of
something.
it. Show me
You gonna make
something when they
some kind
walk
of
in this
movement. My
observation.
kids, they thought I was crazy. I was like, you're not going to gym. You're not going to art. You're going to sit here and learn. We're going to make it fun while we're in here, but you're going to learn something. If you don't do the work, I'm not doing your work, lady. It's not my work. This is what they told me to do for you. I know how to read. You going to do something while you're in here. So mine, I always make sure. And if I push them on, I would always go to the teacher that they had the next year and say, okay, I moved. And I remember them all. Most of my students, I can remember from when I first started. Believe it or not, the first name, last name, family. I remember a lot of them. That's how much I cared.
Yeah.
And so I would go to the next grade. And I would say to the teacher, I moved him along, but he needs X, Y, Z. He was like, I don't think he's going to do it. I was like, push him anyway, because I think he can get it. He really tries. And I can't reach them all, but that's how because a lot of the kids stayed in the school, so I was able to do that. If they didn't stay in the school, I just hope that the next teacher would do for them
As what you did?
what I did.
Do you believe that? Do you believe that? And I think that's the reason why we was able to click. Because you could be in a room of like 20 people and you only make sense with like 2 or 3. And it's like I believe that the teachers that are in the system that we're a part of, they never been thrown in the battle zone, so they need like about 2 or 3 years to figure out even their own footing of where they at. And that's 60 months. That's like close to 5 years. That's a lot of time.
It
that
takes 5 years.
Kids,
it does.
A lot of generations. By the time you figure it out, that third grade is now going into high school.
Yeah. And that's what people don't realize. And so back to your question in terms of the literacy gap, the problem I see is that if almost 24 years ago, I've been doing this for 24 years. So 24 years ago, when I was thrown into the classroom, it took me 3 years to understand behavior management. It took me 2 more years for me to know management and curriculum. So I 5 years.
Yeah.
So now by the 6th year, I'm like, I got this. And the kids are moving. Imagine if I didn't try to figure out what I did between the 1st and the 5th year, how much further behind my students would be. But I was the one that was pushing, like, they're going to learn this. You're going to get this. You can sit here. You can say what you want. You can be upset. You can do whatever you want, but you're not going to sit in my classroom and do nothing. That's one thing I was going to do.
So what are specific things that you gave to the parents, or what are you giving to the parents, that could assist? Because my struggle that I always see is, we have the kids from Monday to Friday. We have them from 8 o'clock in the morning to 2:30, 3 o'clock. But then once they out that school building, they're on their own. Their minds is elsewhere. Like right now, they're on spring break. Who knows what the hell they're doing in all these different boroughs. So what do you know? Was there anything you was giving to the parents and the siblings to, to help them
a different type of
to
teacher.
read?
I don't believe in homework. Why? Because when you sit in my classroom, you're going to get the basics that you need, and now it's up to you to do the rest. We call it explicit teaching. This is how you do it. I'm going to tell you how to do it. We're going to do it together. Now you're going to do it on your own. I'm going to pull a group, and now you're going to work while I'm in my group of kids. You're going to do the work on your own. And if I don't teach it, you won't go home to do it. If I teach it, then you better not come back and say, Mommy didn't help me. Because guess what? In September and October, we did homework in class. These are your 5 spelling words. You're going to do the first 2 on Monday. You're going to do the next 2 on Tuesday. Then you're going to do something else. And you better not come back. And these were 6-year-olds.
So what you expecting the kids to do? People, here's going to stand up.
They're not going to like this.
They're not going to like that part.
But let me tell you this.
You don't believe in homework?
I don't, because I don't.
For all subjects. No math after school. No social studies.
I don't believe in it, but I give it. I don't believe it, but I give it because parents want it, and parents need to see. But I don't believe in it because of the amount of homework that we're giving. If I don't teach it to you, I'm not going to give it to you. And if I want you to remember it, I might give you a couple of answers. And I had a AP that got me thinking like this. Ms. Davidson, If you taught something in class and the kid didn't understand it, why would you give 100 of it? If he didn't understand how to add 1 plus 1, why would you give him 100 problems of 1 plus 2, 1 plus 3? He didn't know how to do 1 plus 1. He didn't know how to do the one problem. And it got me to thinking. Then our principal will say, stop giving homework for more than 30 minutes. Give homework based on the grade. So if you're in kindergarten, give 15 minutes. If you're in second grade, give 30 minutes. And maybe not even go more than 30 minutes, because one of the homework was spend time with your family.
That's right.
So that's how I made homework now. So if I'm doing, you're writing a sentence, ask your mother something about her life and help her write you. That's how I did homework. So I hate the word homework, because there's parents that work. There may be some that don't work, but how about there's some that don't read?
Yeah, and there's some things that need
homework is the thing. Why am I going home to do more work? So now you have to interview your mom. Take this spelling word. Ask your mom something about this spelling word. Try to make it as it can't always connect, but I try to make it connect as much as possible. So you interviewed your parents and had a conversation. Your homework was go home and learn how to tie your shoe, because Miss Davidson,
I'm trying to tell you,
I'm not tying shoes.
I'm trying to tell you, they look at him right now. I'll be like, listen.
Yes.
I'll be like, 3 before me, and I'm gonna point you to the 3 that I know
they learn
how to do it, because they're gonna definitely get it together.
And so the homework for me, I don't know what to call it because I'm big on words. The homework for me was I was going to teach the parents things that they needed to do. Because simple things like that, parents are really thinking like, oh, let me help him tie a shoe because he can't tie it. They're not thinking. Homework was learn your first name and your last name.
Yes.
Learn your date of birth.
Yes. How to write
Learn
your
how
name.
to write
Yes.
the name of the month. It wasn't 3/ whatever.
Yes.
It was March whatever, and learn the year. They didn't even know the year they were born.
I'm trying
Learn
to tell
how
you.
old you are. Learn your mother's name, your father's name, the first name, the last name. Because I'm not calling you Day Day.
That's it.
This is school. I'm not calling you
Exactly.
Day Day. There's no a nickname here, depending on the nickname, but I'm not calling you Day Day. If your name is Daquan, I'll call you Daquan.
Yeah.
If your name, my son is Max. If your name is Maximus, and I call Max, fine, but I'm not calling you Day Day.
Yeah, I hear you.
No.
I hear
So
you.
homework, if we want to call it homework, was I'm easing the parents into things that they need to do to help. So by the time we get to the most serious thing like reading, which was, I didn't want to call it homework because my aunt said to me, if when you read, you don't write about it all the time, why do you keep asking the kids to do that? Do that at school. And when they go home, if you give them something to read, and why do they need to read a whole book? Read a couple of sentences, draw a picture of what you read. The difference now. Now, if you want to write about it, label it. Now it's different.
Now
it's
it's different.
not homework. It's fun.
Yeah.
I call it homework. I don't want to do it. I
Yeah,
don't
exactly.
believe in homework.
They
I
frown
believe in
upon it
home fun, if
immediately.
you want to call it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. They frown upon it before even knowing what it is.
Yeah.
You say, oh, I got homework. Yeah. Oh, my God. Go play on your Xbox.
Yeah.
Wait. Hey, I think I like that homework. You know what?
But it wasn't like that. It was the parents though. So the parents had an idea of what was expected. So you had to. It was some type of learning with your child.
Okay.
Even when my kids had homework when they were 2 and 3 years old, it was here's the letter A. Have them cut out pictures of things that match the letter A. So now it's not homework
yes.
now. It's like
something,
fun.
yeah, it's fun.
Oh my gosh, look at this picture. We're talking about the picture. We're having conversation.
Yes.
So I don't believe in homework like everyone else believes. I believe in having fun, but educational fun. My students knew if you're going to do whatever you do in my class is going to be educational, but it's going to be fun. So if you're playing a game of concentration, it's words you're learning. If you're playing a game, you need the alphabets, you're learning the alphabet's concentration. If you need vocabulary, here's the vocabulary word, here's the definition. With concentration, we're mixing the vocabulary, and then you write a sentence with it. And then my students used to come up with it. Fridays, we played Jeopardy. They had to come up with the questions. How many vowels are there?
Okay.
How many consonants are there?
Yeah.
Tell me some words that have the short A sound. They created because I used to create it, and after a while they want to play it. Now you create it. You create at least this group creates some, this group creates some, this group creates some. It got to be fun.
That's it.
That's how I learned with fun. I mean, Miss Green, one of my best teachers, Miss Sales, it was fun.
Shout out to them. So you said Miss Green and Miss Sales.
Sales.
Miss Sales.
Shirley
Really?
Green. I don't know Miss Sales.
Shirley Green.
I don't.
Boy, that sounds like a country name for real. Shirley Green. You know Shirley. Name Shirley. You don't play with no Shirley. I ain't never met a Shirley that you can play with to this day.
Miss Green was a white woman.
Really? Okay.
It didn't even matter to us back then, but she did not play.
Well, no, I mean,
She did not play.
I don't care, Shirley. However you don't play with no
She
Shirley.
did not play.
Shirley be 3 feet tall. You still call her Big
She did
Shirley.
not
You don't
play.
play with Big Shirley. So, just out of curiosity, who are the people that inspire you? To get you to do what you do day in and day out. They say it takes a village. So who is the village that's responsible for who I see, who I got the luxury of seeing? I've seen you in different lights. Seen you in the
Yeah.
classroom, seen you in photo shoots. Now I got you on podcasts. I've seen
Just
you,
doing the thing.
just
Yep.
now online doing your own thing.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? And I give, I bow
Thank
to that
you.
because I
Thank
see
you.
it. Um,
Working it. I would say, well, I have to say my parents. The fact that they brought me here, and people always say for a better opportunity. And I hate saying better opportunity. They brought me here for an opportunity
mm,
because I'm not saying the opportunity in Guyana is worse than here. It's just a different opportunity.
mm.
And there's more of an opportunity here. So they brought me here for an opportunity for themselves, but I was able to capture that the opportunity that they wanted me to have. So
Got
I
it.
have to say to them, thank you, because I'm able
Plus,
to do. And even now, I'm taking what I've learned here, and I'm actually thinking I'm working on building a library and a museum in Guyana.
really?
So hopefully in December I'll know more. So I'm taking the opportunity and going somewhere else and going back to my country and helping whatever way I can.
Well, I would love to
Be
to
part of
see.
that.
I would love to.
Yeah,
I
it's in the
mean,
works. It's in
go
the
out there and I can get some of that
works.
pepper pot. Oh, don't think I don't know about that pepper pot, boy. My boy come over here, everybody. Mama make some pepper pot, boy. I'm like, hold on.
Yeah, that's our dish. My mom makes some good pepper pot. I gotta say that. Yep.
So you said your parents.
Yeah, my parents. It is so funny because today I had a couple of coworkers. So Miss Oliver, I thank my principal. It's so many people now that I think of it. So Dr. Nimmons, my principal, she ensured that we had a reading coach and a math coach in our school. So from the time I started teaching, from the time I left that school, I always had a coach. I didn't realize the benefit of it until I left. I was like, everything that Miss Oliver did, I'm able to do that as a coach right now. Wow. Every little detail she taught me, even how to plan with the teachers and how to work the curriculum and write the curriculum. And she really worked me through it. And I had to really say to her today, thank you. You have been so instrumental in my life, and I'm pretty sure you don't even know it. She's done a good job at that. So I have to say, Miss Oliver, I have to say, I was always doubting myself because when I was in 5th grade, I didn't think I was doing well. And by my 5th year, when I started to do well, I was put into the lower grades. So now I'm teaching these 5 and 6-year-olds. They cried all the time. They always want something. They never sat down. They're always talking. I'm thinking to myself, this is worse than the 5th grade because they're younger. So I couldn't speak to them that I would speak the way I speak to 5th graders. What are you doing? Come on now, get it together. If I said that, they started crying.
You can't tell them about themselves for real,
There
right?
you go.
5th graders, you get more of a luxury.
There you go. And they listened more to 5th graders because they were able to reason. So Miss Oliver came to me. She's like, Miss Davidson, you have to change your tone. I was like, what tone? Why don't they just sit down? She's like, you're no longer in 5th grade. I was like, what am I doing wrong? She's like, and she's speaking this calmly, Miss Davidson, you're no longer in 5th grade. Let me show you.
Yeah.
So they're running around, and she gets and she says, okay. And then the others came and they were like, oh.
I can
that's
have
what
more,
you mean.
I can control by being quieter.
I was like, oh. She was like, yes. She's whispering, and then she started to raise her voice, and everyone started to listen.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I had to do the opposite. So I tried it. I was like, oh, shoot, this works. This works.
With that being said, hey, buddy, sit your ass down. I love you.
No, I didn't say that. And they actually started to listen, and once again, play. I figured I did it in 5th grade. They're older. The younger ones would like to play. So because they were young, a lot of them barely knew their letters and the sounds in the alphabets. They're just coming from kindergarten. And so I thought, how can I get them into really working this literacy thing that they're trying to force these 5-year-olds to do, which they have to do.
Yes.
And so I started saying to them, because I would see them, they would be in their desk and they have their Game Boy things reading. I said, you can pull it out and read it. Yeah. I said, as a matter of fact, if you have your PlayStation directions, now I know they're not reading directions, nor can they. If you have those directions, bring them in.
They don't read. They don't read those.
I was like, and if you have this, bring it in. And if you by any chance have a book that you want, and they started bringing in all this crazy stuff. Yeah, there's my little. You remember they had these the discs that you stick into the PlayStations or the little camera not flash drive, but these the
They have
little
Nintendo. They had
yeah. So
they had
whatever those things
Sega,
they would push in, they had the big
PlayStation.
cartridges. I don't know anything about
Yeah,
those things.
okay, yeah. But they have CDs.
Yeah,
Some
those
have the
things.
CDs. Yes.
So they would bring in things, but there were words on it. It wasn't
Yes.
like you could read a book, but they would bring it in.
Sonic the Hedgehog, whatever it was.
Whatever
Yeah.
it was, they would bring it in, and they
They
we
could
could bring it
recognize-
in,
yeah.
and they started bringing it in. And then I started
and that's
bringing
phenomenal
in books.
because with that, then it's you could understand with that the Sonic, they could see that and they could understand that S makes the
Yeah, as simple as that is. Yep.
it and you start breaking
Yep.
it down. They could now
Yeah.
when they're out and about, they start connecting it to all the other words.
And that's exactly what.
Cause that's how I pretty much treated my daughter. When we go in the supermarket, I was always
Yep.
showing her what bread is or breaking the sounds down or and they'd be like, oh, why are you always talking to the baby? Because I was talking to her when she was in the stomach. I'm talking to her in real life anyway. Though she wasn't able to respond back verbally, but I know that she was
mentally.
locking in. She knows what bread is and what tomatoes is,
Yeah.
or when we're in the kitchen. That's why she's a cook now. She makes these weird, reckless, things on her menu's different. Teenage
But you
menu.
eat it, don't you? This is good.
Like some things. She said something the other day and she was naming it and I was like, it sounds crazy. But then when she said, oh, I got some honey. I got some turkey. I took the bagel. I put the honey on the bagel. I'm like, you name it, all this stuff. I'm like, oh, but then when you put the turkey on with the honey, oh, that's nothing but honey turkey. When you look at it, I'm like,
I know.
it kind of makes sense. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, but are there any, if you was talking to if you was able to have a student teacher, what advice would you give them? Like a fresh student teacher, like you said, fresh in, a lot of these teachers nowadays aren't like the old teachers from back then. My teachers were like 60, 59. These teachers nowadays are, 22, 23.
They're chilling with the students.
Chilling, different wardrobe and everything, They wear tights.
Some clothes on.
They wear tights, I'm like, shorty.
You're not going to the gym.
Even like a couple of them was like, hey, we can go hang out and there's a happy hour. I'm like, you could be my child, shorty. Stop it. I'm 42 years old. You could be my child. I'm like, I got nieces and nephews older than you. Are you crazy?
I know.
Yeah, what advice could you give them in 2025?
I don't know if much of it has changed because I still believe some of what worked old school still works today. Treat people the way you want to be treated. If your child was sitting in front of you, how would you teach? And that's how I've always taught. As if my child, even so that I would call them by my children's names. Sometimes I'd forget that was my child, and I would.
Max! That look.
I'd have to walk away because it was mommy now. But yeah, just treat them the way you would want your child to be treated. My child was sitting in front of me, how would I teach? My child I hate the word compete, a lot of words I don't like, but we have to collaborate in this world. So if my child was sitting with this child, how would they work together? If you were taught one thing and my child wasn't taught, how would they work together?
How do you find that happy medium to where they could feed off of one another, where one doesn't feel as if they're smarter than the other, and one don't feel as if they're stupid like or less informed than the other.
I like that.
For the word less informed, and how they could give each other, where you could have the confidence to listen, and the other one can have the confidence to say, hey, it goes like this, Yeah. You was mentioning something a little while ago. You said you wanted to go back to as far as with literacy. What was that?
Yeah, so I was saying in terms of closing the literacy gap. So, and
Closing the literacy gap.
What the problem I found. So I was saying that if it takes 5 years for me to be an okay teacher.
60 months.
Yeah. And now I've become an okay teacher, and now another teacher has come in, and it takes her 5 years. And now another teacher comes in, and it's taken her 5 years. But within those 5 years, I wasn't even taught what I needed to be taught as a teacher. So now I'm going on to my 6th year. So now I'm trying to figure it out. And this other teacher now is in her 5th, and she's figuring out. We're always trying to figure it out. And as soon as you get a curriculum, it has changed. And so my thought process has been, it's no longer the curriculum. What they're placing in front of me, what is it that the child needs to know that I can give them so that they can actually move on to the next phase in their life? So if you give me whatever curriculum you give me, I'm going to make sure that my students are learning the foundational information for them to move on. And the foundation is learning how to read. Phonemic awareness, like you were saying. I go to the grocery store, and that's how I help my parents. I go to the grocery store, this is bread.
Yes.
If you see the word bread, fine. But my goal is not to teach you the word bread yet.
I'm just having
this
conversation.
Is bread. There
I'm
you
just
go.
showing you
There you
everything
go.
that you're going to
There you
be
go.
consuming somehow, some way.
There you go.
You know what I mean?
There you go.
Yeah.
So whatever it is, this is bread. And then eventually, now I'm going to phonics. You see these words, B-R-E-A-D? They make sounds. They're called alphabets. Now I'm teaching the word bread. Now fluency, when you go back to the grocery store, oh, bread.
Yeah, bread.
And I'm pointing to the word bread. Now vocabulary. Now we're reading the ingredients. I see enriched. Now I've taught them a vocabulary word.
That's right.
And so now when I'm reading a book and I see bread and I see enriched, now I'm putting it all together. So I've used all the 5 pillars. And that's why I said I don't believe in homework. I believe in just that home fun or hands-on learning.
Or working at home.
Expeditionary
You ain't gonna do homework,
learning,
but you're gonna work at home.
There you go.
You're gonna do something.
Exactly. And so the parents that I was seeing, like, oh, I'm like, just talk to them. You're walking down the street. Word is don't walk. Tell them don't walk. They've learned the word don't, and they learn the word walk. And then I would do the rest. D says d. O says ah. And I teach them the word don't, and now we're putting it all together. So working in tandem now. So to close the literacy gap, we all have to work in tandem. So that's why my goal is to teach the parents how to teach their children how to read. And some of them are doing it, but you don't know it. But if I tell you how you're doing it, now you're putting it together.
And some of them are doing it, don't even realize that they're doing it
Yep.
because, you went to enriching, you know what I'm saying? They receive something without even knowing that they actually got it, you know? You are a phenomenal talent. I mean, thank you for pulling up on the set. What could we expect from Lesia Davidson in the now? I mean,
My
books.
I have books to come.
Author. What could we expect?
So currently I have, I have 2 businesses. So the first one, Simply Speaking, that's my literacy coaching business where I'm coaching parents and teaching their children how to read. And so during the summer months, I'm online and I give them strategies and little tidbits on what they can do to help their children with the reading. And so I'm putting that out there. Now I'm working on my research and getting that out there to the masses, get some information so I can really go full speed ahead. I have coaches waiting. I have friends waiting to coach. They're just waiting on me to just put it out there. And then my second business is the Children's Educarium, where I'm teaching the African diaspora history to children in a fun way. So when you walk into my museum, it's a sensory experience. So you're touching, you're hearing, you're listening, you're feeling, all those senses are engaged, where you're learning about what has happened in our history. And I call it African diaspora. First, I was calling it African American. And when I think about it, there are so many different Black people from so many different places, especially now. And now you're hearing their background. So for instance, even like Rihanna, her family is from Guyana. Was it Barbados?
Barbados, yes.
And Shirley Chisholm's parents are from Guyana and Barbados. And then you hear Bob Marley. We talked about Bob Marley back in the 70s. He came in Jamaica. So a lot of people, Marcus Garvey, as controversial as he is, a lot of thinking went behind Black Wall Street. When you think about it, that was one of his things that he was thinking about. So it couldn't be an African American. It had to be an African diaspora because it spreads throughout. And then I'm Guyanese American. So I couldn't say African American because I am from Guyana. So I am making a difference in this culture. So I had to say African diaspora.
I had to sprinkle somehow, some way.
There you go.
I had to be implemented.
There you go.
So, where could we get your books? Where could we get them? I mean, are they online?
So you can go to Simply Speaking simplyspeaks.com.
Okay,
I'm there.
we have that info
And then
on
I
the
can have
bottom of the
my phone
screen.
number. I can give you all the contact information, share it with individuals. And yeah, so that's pretty much it. So I can't wait. Like summer's coming up. I'm really gearing up to get my Facebook Live, my YouTube up and running
So you'll be
again.
doing like live
Live
videos.
videos where I'm teaching the different strategies on reading. And
So they could also contact you direct
yes,
if they need some assistance with
yes,
literacy coaching,
yes,
reading,
yes,
certain
yes,
curriculums.
they
You
can.
are
They'll have
available.
my number. Yes, yes.
All right, I hope y'all heard that. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, so don't say that, you don't know. Don't say you didn't get a heads up. You know what I'm saying? Are you expensive?
I wouldn't see that's relative because you pay for whatever you want, right?
I mean,
And
I
so
agree. You have to pay for what you want.
Yeah, so think of it this way. I've been in this profession for 24 years, going into my 25th year.
Yes.
I've learned a lot. I've paid lots of money for what I know. I've paid lots of time. Forget money. I've paid lots of time. So I'm not going to just give it away. Sometimes when you give things away, people don't appreciate it. So if you really want to learn what I've learned over the years with all the monies that I pay, it's relative.
And that's like the story I hear when the guy had an issue with his pipes in the house, and then somebody came from the business and they corrected it so quick. And the guy calls back the office about, hey, this guy, he came in here and he fixed it in like 2 minutes, and then he charged me like all this money. And the owner's like, did he fix the problem? He's like, yeah, water was just shooting all over your place. He came in there, he fixed the whole entire problem. Yeah, but he came and he did it so quick. So why am I paying $500 for that? So should he have procrastinated, took longer to still fix the problem? Mm-hmm. No. Then what's the problem? I don't know. Is the job done? The job is done. So I totally understand what you're saying, because some people don't realize that, they say, oh, I want pictures. Oh, I just want to come in there and just take a few little pictures. Like, there's not a few, nothing. Yeah. You're not considering, like you said, the lighting and setting up time and getting yourself prepared.
The
all the expertise of what it takes.
Yeah.
So
and if you're interested, you're interested. If you're not to be rude, but not.
I've seen a lot of talented people in my lifetime. What I was able to see you do in the classroom is second to none. I don't know if people don't tell you that. But the way you control a room, like I knew I was going to have, I was like, wow, okay, I do see you, very, very professional, but you control a room. So
thank you.
It's good to know that, for those who haven't given you flowers, let me be one of them to be able to say, well, thank you for coming on the set.
That means a lot.
I see what you do,
thank you.
In and out the classroom. So I know anybody that you get your hands on, they don't leave the same. That's like how I feel in here. I love for people to come, and when they leave better than they came. When they be like, yo, I learned something. Oh, that was so cool. It was like, cool. It's not the same thing. How people usually have that, oh, how'd your day going? Oh, same stuff, same thing.
I don't like that.
It's never the same.
It's going great.
It's always something. It's going great, and there's always something new. Always something.
Yep.
Ms. Davidson, thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Just keep your antennas up. She'll be having lives.
Yes.
Books.
Yes.
For sale, all different type of things, and chime in.
Thank you.
Everyone needs to learn. Listen, and even though we have a lot of big words that we know, we always got to start with the small steps. We're live on set, strategies, and I didn't ask you. Did anything else I need to ask you? Anything else you wanna?
No.
I asked you about your, you're not the youngest. Your siblings. Are you the only? How many educators is in your family? Like as far as siblings, I didn't ask that.
I don't have siblings. I'm the only one.
So you're the only teacher. Oh, God bless.
Only teacher that's in the educational space, because my sister teaches dance. My brother, he's a set designer, so he does teaching. And
so those are still
my sister,
worlds.
She does hair, so she can teach that.
Those are still okay.
So they're educators in
they're
that.
They're still
teachers.
Okay. So all of y'all are
so
professionals at what y'all do. All right, that's a beautiful thing. All right. Keep your antennas up. Be on the lookout for the lives. Purchase the literacy. Learn something. Lesia Davidson,
Thank you.
Some
Appreciate
Law, Irv, we're here and we're live on set. Until the next episode, have fun in what you love to do. And if you don't know how to have fun in it, find a way. Figure it out. There's fun in everything. You know, how do you say, put the fun in fundamental?
There you go. Put the fun in fundamental.
Fun in fundamental. That may be the actual title. The fun in fundamental.
Okay.
I like that
There you
one.
go. I
Yes.
like that.
We're live on set. Peace. All right.
Thank you.
You're done.